Resident Frank Gillingham of Rosemont had a unique connection to Shell Point long before he ever became a resident. He's lived a life of travel and adventure and has stories to tell. Let's get to know Frank Gillingham.
Yeah, I grew up over in Coral Gables, Florida. Uh, Went to Gables High. We were national champions in football that year, played football at Gables. The school was number one nationally, scholastically, so it was a great school. Uh, on the ocean there, we did a lot of fishing. My dad was a great fisherman. We boated, did a lot of hunting in the Everglades as a kid, so I've always loved the outdoors. Played tennis, played soccer, baseball, and ended up working for my dad after I got out of college, which college didn't last too long. And he was in the insurance business. He ultimately went into Philadelphia and started the American Maturity and Colonial Penn Insurance Group. But I worked for him in Coral Gables, Florida. Did a pretty good job, and he called me in one day and he basically said, "You're doing a good job. You want to go into the insurance business?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I think so." He said, "Good." He said, "You're fired." And he says, "Here's a ticket, airplane ticket that leaves at 3 o'clock today to New York City." He says, "You can't learn the insurance business in Coral Gables, Florida. You need to go to New York City where you can get some real education in the business." I said, "Dad, I don't have any money. I don't have a car." He says, "Tough. Get your plane, go to New York City." I said, "Well, where am I going to sleep?" And his comment was, "Sleep in the YMCA. That's free." So to make a long story short, I obviously did that, got a job. I worked in Reading, Pennsylvania for the American Casualty Company, CNA Group. I worked in Pittsburgh. I worked in Baltimore, worked in Cleveland, and then I came down to Fort Myers, Florida, with a national insurance company to run two agencies they bought here. At that time, that agency insured Shell Point Village. So I handled the insurance for Shell Point Village, left the national broker and started my own insurance agency with my brother as a partner, and we continued to insure Shell Point and a lot of other major accounts. And we sold our business to Alexander and Alexander, which was the second largest broker in the world at that time. And I retired. I retired at 45, and I moved to Montana. I love to ski, I love the outdoors, I love to hunt and fish, and I lived up in a place called Big Sky, Montana. Big Sky, my place in Big Sky was at 7,200 feet, so I was in the mountains, and I skied during the winter, maybe 100 days a year. I've done helicopter skiing off peaks back up in the high country. I did a lot of extreme skiing. Part of the reason why I'm at Shell Point Village, you fall when you're going 60, 65 miles an hour and it hurts. So you get a little bit broken up. But I hunted out there. I've hunted all over the United States, almost all through Canada, up in the Yukon. I've hunted the Arctic Circle. I've hunted through Alaska. I've hunted Africa. I've fished all through Costa Rica, the South Pacific. I've fished all through the United States, fly fishing, deep sea fishing, marlin fishing, a lot of saltwater fly fishing. That bonefish up there is 9.5 pounds, which I caught on a fly, which was pretty good. We did a lot of fly fishing in the Bahamas and other areas, so a little bit everywhere. So it's the outdoors that I've enjoyed and spent a lot of my lifetime exploring and hunting and fishing. We did a lot of packing back up into the high country We would pack back with mules and horses back into remote areas of the Yellowstone Park and stay in there anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. We'd go into the Bob Marshall Wilderness and we'd pack back in there and hunt and fish in the Bob Marshall. We'd stay there for, 5, 6 weeks and come on out. It was a great life. When I left Montana, at that point I had 65, 68 animals mounted. All of them were different. I had a half a dozen or so fish mounted, marlin, sailfish, things of that nature, and maybe 100 different birds, ducks and geese and things of that nature. Then when I was retired in Montana, I did trips like to the Arctic Circle, and the Arctic Circle was for Dall sheep. The Dall sheep are very high. It's a lot of climbing, a lot of work. And when you go hunting, when I go hunting, you want to shoot a trophy. You want something that's really special. So you got to work for it, and you're up and down, up and down. In those days, you're in great shape, not like now. So we went for Dall sheep in the Arctic Circle. In Alaska, we went for moose and caribou. In the Yukon, we went for goat. I went to Africa when I was in my early 40s. I think I went to Africa maybe a year before I retired. I retired, as I said, at 45. I went to Africa when I was 43, 44. We had been out hunting a hippo, and we shot a large hippo. Happened to be the hippo that had just killed 2 people. So we brought him up. These are actually the teeth of the hippo, which are a couple of the teeth, which are ivory. And we were heading back to camp because we need some help with this hippo. And we passed about 500 yards from where we had a leopard bait hung. We were doing some leopard hunting in the early morning and late evening. And my guide said, it would be a good idea if we walked up to this leopard bait and see if anything's been on it. We hadn't checked it in a couple of days. So we both just got out and started walking up. Neither one of us grabbed a rifle, and my guide said, "Hey, you better go get your rifle." So I did. And we got up to this leopard bait, and my guide tapped my shoulder. He said, "There, large lion. It's crouched in that high grass." And I thought the lion was laying down, but it wasn't. It was crouched. And he said, "Big lion, take it." And just as he said that, the lion charged. Well, on a charge, a lion can go about 40 miles an hour. So they're unbelievably fast for a short distance. And I brought my rifle up, found him, and I shot, and I hit him in the chest. My first shot hit him in the chest about 20 feet from me. And that's a killing shot, but it spun him, and I hit him in the shoulder, spun him, came after me again, hit him in the other shoulder, spun him, he came after me again, and I hit him in the back and broke his back, and I was out of ammunition. And the lion's up roaring. My guide later said to me, he said, "I want you, when you go home, I want you to get a piece of chalk and we'll write it out over on a road, chalk the road, and then you go 20 feet and chalk it again. Then you get in your car and you go 40 miles an hour and you see how long it takes to go 20 feet. He said, that's the time that we had left before both of us were dead. So it was a pretty fun hunt. He ended up on my floor up in Montana, and as well as the rest of the animals. Now they're all gone except my buffalo and a deer, but that's the lion. This is a Cape buffalo from Africa, and my white hunter and I were out hunting for buffalo, and we were on a group of buffalo, about a herd of maybe 150. We couldn't get on them. As we tried to move up, they kept moving away, and we couldn't get on them. We got up on a little knoll and we're looking down, and there was some very, very heavy grass, maybe 10, 12 feet high. It was very thick. this herd of buffalo went into this grass, and behind this grass was a canyon. My guide said they're going to go through this grass, we're going to go into this canyon, and we'll can cut them off, go through the grass, get behind them, and it's a dead-end canyon. We'll get a real good look at them. So buffalo went in the grass. We came down, and 10, 15 minutes later, we went into grass to get through it. The buffalo never went out. So we stopped in the middle of this grass, and there's buffalo all around us. We can't see them because the grass is so thick, but we could hear them walk. We could hear them breathe. So that was a extremely dangerous situation. So we backed out. My guide said, you know, we got call it a day. That we'll never get on that herd. So we're walking back to where our hunting vehicle was, which was a good way away. And we came up to this buffalo and another one. They were identical twins. They were about 150 yards away. So this was a pretty good trophy, so my guide told me to take him. So I shot him in the chest, and he went down. And the second buffalo, the twin, charged us. Well, in Tanzania, you get one ticket for one animal, and if you shoot a second, you go to jail, and you don't want to be in jail in Tanzania. I mean, you really don't. So my guide told me, do not shoot. So we had our rifles up, and this big bull is charging us, and he just said, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, and the bull just stopped right in front of us. Turned out that he ended up going back, and he made 5 false charges at us before he finally took off and left. So, you know, that was kind of interesting. When I hunted mostly for trophies. So I would go out sometimes, and I may hunt for 2 or 3 years and never shoot my rifle. I could be in the midst of game and see a lot of game, but it just wasn't trophy size, so I wouldn't shoot it. But the joy of being outdoors, the joy of the beauty and the physical activity, the animals, you know, you see so much. You see so much bird life. You see butterflies. You see, you know, all kinds of things when you're quiet, and so that's, you know, the thrill of a lion charge or a buffalo charge or something like that. That kind of makes it. But it was worth it. It was worth. I wouldn't trade 1 minute or 1 day. It was worth every bit of it.